The Tennessee Volunteers travel to play the Ohio State Buckeyes this Saturday at 8 p.m. And this is the most intriguing matchup in the first round of the college football playoff, the first ever 12-team college football playoff, because of the immense pressure on Ryan Day. But also because I think with Tennessee, I know that they're happy to be here, but Josh Heupel is looking for another one of those signature wins. He had one against Alabama in 2022. This, beating Ohio State in the Horseshoe, would be a signature program-changing win for Tennessee. It would be. And to circle back to Ohio State, a win here at minimum restores some faith in the team. You win a playoff game, you get to 11 wins, you finish the year, at least at home, in Ohio Stadium, in the Horseshoe, off on a high note. And Ohio State right now is favored by 7. A lot of people are picking Tennessee, and Tennessee has a lot of advantages in this game. But I think Ohio State has more advantages. That's why I picked them to win. Picked them 31-17 to beat them by the exact same score that Georgia did earlier this year in the regular season. And today, I'm going to tell you why I believe Ohio State wins, why they beat Tennessee. So I'm going to give you 5 of those reasons, actually. Not just some reasons, but 5 reasons. And I encourage you, if you haven't already, to please check out via the link down below at the top of the comment section in the pinned comment. There'll be a link there. Just click on that to watch my Ohio State versus Tennessee preview and prediction video, where I talk about some fascinating matchups. I look at the analytics, the starters, the rosters from both sides. Today we're going to be looking at things from the Ohio State perspective, because this is a video about why I believe that they will win. Tennessee can win, though, so maybe I'll talk about them later this week. If you want to figure out if I do, though, again, you got to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you can get notified when I release more content. But let's kick this off and start off with reason number 5, why I believe the Buckeyes will beat the Volunteers. That is Jim Knowles' adjustments. A lot of crap, and rightfully so, has been dished out to Ohio State's coaching staff. I watched that Ohio State-Michigan game. For context, I'm a Michigan fan. I watched it for all its 60 minutes of game time. It felt like a day watching it in real life. And I was hyperventilating, I was sweating, and I was praying, admittedly, for a Michigan win. And it happened. And I jokingly, well, not even jokingly, I seriously said, in talking about the Michigan-OSU game, the only way that Michigan is winning this game is some type of miracle or disaster, if you're an Ohio State fan, an anti-miracle, divine intervention, because Ohio State's just that much better than Michigan. And because the staff planned one of the worst game plans I have ever seen, and they executed it, and they tried to execute it until they couldn't, well, that combined with Michigan not giving up and being tough and playing to their strengths resulted in a 13-10 Michigan win. The worst loss that Ohio State, I think, has suffered this century, in the 21st century. So, rightfully so, Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, and I think especially Justin Fry have been given crap. Someone who doesn't deserve any of that is Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles is one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. He commands the best defense in the country, number 1 per S&P+. His unit is first in opponent second half points per game. They, on an average basis, only allow 3.8 second half points per game. Think about Penn State. Penn State currently averages 6.7 yards per play. They're top 4 in that category. Ohio State only allowed 3 points to be scored from that Penn State team in the second half. In the game against Michigan, where Ohio State lost, traditionally it's been all about how, Jim Knowles' defense just collapses in the fourth quarter. Not this time. And even though they couldn't get Michigan off the field much, that was because their offense couldn't do anything. So the defense was on the field tired against a team that has a respectable rushing attack. They held Michigan to 3 in that game. Against Oregon, they shut out Oregon in the third quarter. Oregon didn't score. If memory serves me correctly, Oregon didn't score. They didn't score a single point in the third quarter. They didn't. Ohio State's defense made some adjustments. More importantly, they got a fourth down stop inside of the 5 against Oregon. Now, the offense didn't fulfill the promise that you always make to the defense when you get a stop, like, hey, we're going to score on this drive. Thanks for getting us the stop. They didn't. But the defense, really outside of that Oregon game, for 3 out of the 4 quarters, has been the unsung hero of OSU this year. Jim Knowles has done a better job of getting pressure than he ever has before with Ohio State. The rushing defense is great. The passing defense is great. At times, both of those are even elite, and his adjustments are among the nation's best. Number 4 is superior quarterback play. Nico Iamaleava, 5-star out of high school. I thought he was going to be an All-American this year. Well, Will Howard, who I think is... maybe he is an All-American, but he's certainly not the best quarterback in the country. Might be like a second or third team, or maybe even like honorable mention All-American type quarterback. Like near elite, not elite, and maybe just great, because I think this is a pretty down year for quarterbacks as is. Nico Iamaleava is none of those things. He's not even a top 15 QB. Will Howard is better than Nico Iamaleava in QBR, passer rating, passing yards, completion percentage, yards per attempt, and perhaps most importantly, touchdown to interception ratio. Will Howard is the more accurate quarterback. I don't think he has the same upside now that Nico does, but we have seen these teams play in 12 games, and in almost all of those games, outside of maybe week 1, where Will Howard kind of had a rough introduction to Ohio State against Akron, Will Howard's been the better quarterback. It's just that simple. So we have a large sample size of 12 games that tells us, even in the games where Ohio State has no rushing attack because of their injuries on the O-line, that Will Howard helps produce a much more productive passing offense than Nico Iamaleava does with Tennessee. Now, some of that's on the wide receivers. Ohio State has much better wide receivers than Tennessee does. But Nico has 2,512 passing yards, completes 65.7% of his throws, 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. His quarterback efficiency rating right now is 35th, a 70.5. Will Howard, on the other hand, 2,860 passing yards, 9.1 yards per attempt, 27 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 72.3 completion percentage. He has an 83 QBR. That's 7th. So superior QB play, I think, is going to be important in this game because these teams both have receivers with high upside. And another thing to keep in mind is both of these pass protection units are pretty bad in their current state of things. Tennessee's tackles have been awful for the whole year relative to the talent they have on the O-line. And Ohio State's pass protection everywhere has gotten bad as the season's gone on, in part due to injuries, but also they never really had depth. And I don't think outside of Simmons or McLaughlin, they have done a really good job this year at developing. Thanks, Justin Fry. Number 3 is the wide receiver core. And when I say stuff like thanks, Justin Fry, or sarcasm, I guarantee you Ohio State fans are probably more excited or just kind of laughing at that rather than getting annoyed, because they don't like Justin Fry either. Number 3 is the explosive wide receiver core that OSU has, and matching that up against a Tennessee passing defense that is good, but relative to other secondaries in the college football playoff is shaky, and nationally is great, near elite, but not elite. They don't have the safeties that Ohio State does. They don't have the corners or just the DBs total that Texas does. They don't. Now, Tennessee is a really good defense, and there is a pathway for them to shut down this Ohio State offense, but I'm talking about reasons why I believe Ohio State will win, not lose. Ohio State will win this game because Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, Carnell Tate, and Brandon Inniss have combined for 2,411 yards, 24 touchdowns, and they average 14.2 yards per reception. And because Jeremiah Smith is just so athletic and such an alien that he can beat your best cover guy. That oftentimes for almost any team, the best bet to stop Jeremiah Smith from scoring is to double cover him or to pull him down and draw a PI flag so he doesn't catch the touchdown pass and you live to see another down. This wide receiver core, all of these players I'm bringing up are going to be NFL players at some point. For all of the criticism that has been levied at Ohio State's offensive staff, wide receiver is not one of them. They block well, they run their routes well, they have high effort. Jeremiah Smith might be the best wide receiver in the nation, and he's a true freshman. The only reason he did not win the Biletnikoff, in my opinion, is because he wasn't utilized enough. Like, see the Michigan game or see the Nebraska game. Games where Ohio State tried to physically impose their will on teams through the run game when they should have been physically imposing their will on teams through the passing attack. That's another thing about this Ohio State wide receiver core. They're not just explosive. They're not just finesse. They don't just dance after the catch. They're physical. They get yards after contact. They beat you one-on-one. They're tough. They block well. This is your ideal wide receiver room you're talking about here. The only one that might be better is Oregon, and Oregon is insanely good at wide receiver. So there's no shame in Oregon potentially being better than Ohio State there at wide receiver. This is going to be a tall order for Tennessee to deal with. This is the best wide receiver core they have dealt with by a mile. You thought defending Alabama's receivers was hard with Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams, I think, is an alien. Bernard's good. They have some other good receivers. But Smith is better than Williams, and Egbuka, future NFL player. Tate could be an alien, and he's been coming on as the year's gone on. And Inniss was also highly recruited out of high school, and from what I've seen, is a pretty physical blocker. Reason number 2 are the Ohio State safeties. That is Jordan Hancock, the nickelback, and then Lathan Ransom and Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs, of course, a legend, a unicorn in his own right at safety. This is their best room on defense. In fact, it might be their best room on the whole team. Their safety room might be better than their wide receiver room, Ohio State's. Downs, Ransom, and Hancock have combined for 149 tackles, 1 sack, 10 passes defended, 3 interceptions, and 5 forced fumbles this year. They tackle well. They read plays properly. They are disciplined. They don't let you beat them over the top. This is the best safety room in the country. Dare I say it's a generational safety room. You have a generational player in Caleb Downs. You have Jordan Hancock, who was awesome as a corner last year, has done well at nickelback. And then Lathan Ransom has been playing out of his mind this year too. So I think these guys right here are NFL DBs. Downs is a first rounder. Ransom is playing like someone who you would classify as a first rounder, though I don't know or think he'll be drafted that high. And Hancock is playing well too. So I think that with Nico and how he has been passing the ball and how his receivers have been catching and just how the passing offense is, they have some upside. Like Dante Thornton, for example, who's a very explosive receiver. Brew McCoy's more the yards after contact guy. They have some receivers. They have some capabilities, but I think this safety room is going to lock them down the same way it did Penn State. Not only that, Tennessee's good at running the football, not because they have an insane yards per carry. They only average 5 yards per carry. That's like about the same as OSU, by the way. But they run the ball for over 40 times per game. Against a safety room like this, who reads plays well, who's disciplined, intelligent, and selfless, they are going to tackle Dylan Sampson well. And they may even force a fumble from him because he's had some fumble problems. So Tennessee's MO is running the ball. These safeties tackle well. And I think that if you're Ohio State, allowing only 10, 13, 17, or even 20 points is a success against Tennessee. The offensive game plan against Michigan was an aberration. It was atrocious. And there was nothing wrong with the defense in that game. They did a pretty good job slowing down Michigan's rushing attack. Was it absolutely perfect? No, but that was because they were on the field for 13 minutes in the fourth quarter and Mullings broke that long run. For whatever reason, Orji confused him on a long QB run, and also Mullings is as tough as nails. Mullings is a power back with vision and with speed who will always fall forward for an additional yard or 2. Dylan Sampson will run the ball. He won't get shut down, but I think the safeties will help limit him, and they'll also prevent Tennessee from getting any big plays over the air. And that should be concerning if you're a Tennessee fan, because the Georgia game was an example of how everything was hard. How when Tennessee converted a third down, it was because the ball was thrown very well and the receiver made a great catch. They were winning one-on-ones almost too much against Georgia in the short to intermediate passing game. It was always everything was hard. And meanwhile, a lot of the drives Georgia had on offense were easier. They looked like they were more replicable. And I think that will play out here as well, where Tennessee might take the lead. They may hang around for the whole game, but I think it'll look easier for Ohio State to score and move the football and also stop their opponent from moving the football. Whereas for Tennessee, I think things will look harder. And I think the safety difference between these two teams is a huge part of it. Tennessee doesn't have bad safeties at all. I just think Ohio State has the best safeties in the entire country, and they don't just have two of them like some defenses do. They have three of them. And lastly, number one is the pass rush mismatch. Going to keep it short and going to keep it sweet because I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Tennessee is 91st nationally in QB sack percentage. Their quarterback gets sacked on 7.45% of his dropbacks. Ohio State is second in sack percentage. They sack opposing quarterbacks on 10.51% of their opposing quarterbacks' dropbacks. That is a major mismatch. Everyone's talking about James Pierce Jr. and Tennessee's D-line against Ohio State's O-line, and that makes sense. I think James Pierce Jr. is going to get pressure on Will Howard and going to have a big day. But people aren't talking about Jim Knowles and his blitzes and Cody Simon and Sonny Styles and Tuimoloau and Sawyer and Williams and Hamilton, who, look, none of whom outside of maybe Simon are elite players, but with a numbers advantage and a great defensive backfield to cover while they blitz against an O-line that's nearly outside the top 100 in the FBS in terms of protecting the QB, that's a mismatch right there, especially in a nighttime environment. So I think this point right here is why OSU wins, and actually why I think they win quite comfortably. This is entertaining, this game, and very intriguing from a narrative standpoint, but from a matchup standpoint, it makes sense why Ohio State's favored the way they are. They've looked better than Tennessee in almost all of their games throughout the season, and they have matchup edges. I mean, Tennessee does too, and again, wink, I'll potentially talk about them in their own separate video, maybe why Tennessee wins later this week, but Ohio State has their own set of non-negotiables that Tennessee's going to have to deal with, and Ohio State's pass rush is better than Georgia's, thanks to blitzes. Their secondary is way better than Georgia's, way better. And I would say it's the same thing with their receivers. Their quarterback, I mean, Will Howard's played better than Carson Beck has this season. And it's another road game in a big environment. So Tennessee can win, but I'm taking Ohio State to win 31-17 again. And I think that the defensive adjustments, I think that the explosive wide receiver room, I believe that the defensive line, the pass rush, the fact that Ohio State's pass protection is better than Tennessee, same with their pass rush, that's a mismatch right there. I look ultimately just at the safeties that Ohio State has and just how excellent they are in what they do. They're elite, they're NFL, and that's honestly where I leave it right there, on top of the fact that I believe that they have superior quarterback play. Nearly forgot to mention that, but that's another pretty big thing in this football game. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and also hit that notification bell so that way you can get notified when new content from College Football with Sam drops. I appreciate you very much, and also share the video around to others who you know enjoy the sport of college football and love it as I do and as you do. And comment your thoughts down below so that we can have a conversation, because I want to know what you are thinking. And join our Discord server where we talk college football 24/7 via the link in the description or down below in the pinned comment. Thank you to my Heisman Patreon members, Crash2488, Brasco Rascal, and Carnell OH. Thank you to my All-American Patreon members, Chris Lane, Ismar, and Tyler Nye. And thank you to my All-Conference members, John Lynn, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Sale, Austin Christmas, Joshua Jorgensen, and Will Loftus. Make sure to check out my merchandise store and or Patreon page or super chat down in the comment section below to support the channel. The Patreon page and merchandise store links are in the description or down below in the pinned comment. I hope you have a wonderful day. It is December, so Merry Christmas and also Happy New Year. I will see you guys soon.